There are some memories you spend your whole life trying to bury. But memories are strange things. They don't stay dead. They wait. Beneath the surface. Beneath everything you try to build on top of them. My name doesn't matter. Not anymore. What matters is what I found, or maybe what found me. It's been months, but I can still smell the dust on my skin. I can still feel the stone pressing against my chest when the light started to fade. If you're hearing this, then I need you to understand something. I didn't go looking for the darkness. It came looking for me. This is what happened. When I found the hole behind my house, I hadn't touched a guideline or worn a harness in years. Not since the day the Cathedral Caverns collapsed and took half my team with it. After that, I swore I'd never crawl into another hole again. You can tell yourself, a promise like that will last forever, but forever ends the moment curiosity whispers. I bought a quiet piece of land last year, 10 acres of trees and limestone ridges. It was supposed to be my escape, a place where the earth stayed still, and the only sound was the creek that curved behind the house. I told myself the solitude would be healing. It worked until the day I found the hole. It was late afternoon when I saw it half hidden by brush at the bottom of a shallow depression. The soil there had slumped inward, exposing a vein of pale rock beneath. At first, I thought it was just erosion from rain, nothing special. But then, I felt the air a thin current of cold that breathed upward from the ground. When I brushed the dirt aside, I saw that the limestone had collapsed inward, leaving a space behind it. A passageway. I leaned close, peering into the narrow gap. The darkness on the other side was complete. When I turned my flashlight on, the beam sank into the void and stopped after only a few inches. I couldn't see a thing beyond the rubble. The map of the property had mentioned nothing about caves. I checked again, flipping through every page of the survey documents. Nothing, which meant either the surveyors had missed it, or someone had sealed it long before. I called the real estate office. A woman named Karen answered. Westwood Realty, she said. Hi, this is the guy who bought the Route 12 lot last year. Oh yes, how's it treating you? Good. Listen, I found something on the property that wasn't on the map. Looks like a cave entrance collapsed, but still open. There was a pause. A cave, she repeated. Yeah, it's not on the survey. I just wanted to make sure that's normal. Another pause longer this time. Well, sometimes these old limestone areas have pockets that open up. Nothing dangerous, I'm sure. Just stay clear of it. She hung up before I could ask more. The call left me uneasy. She'd sounded not careless, but rehearsed, as if she'd given that exact answer before. I stared at the hole again. Cold air drifted out, smelling faintly metallic, like old stone and something else, something stale. I knew I shouldn't, but curiosity has a weight of its own. There was only one person I could call. Ryan. He answered on the second ring, his voice warm and familiar. Man, I thought you'd died or moved to Alaska. You disappeared after Cathedral. Yeah, I said I needed out. But listen, you won't believe what I just found. He arrived that evening, headlights cutting through the trees. When he saw the collapsed entrance, his grin widened like a kid on Christmas morning. You're telling me this isn't marked anywhere, not on any of the records? He ran his fingers along the limestone. His eyes gleamed. Then we've got a virgin cave. We started digging before the sun set. Limestone breaks apart reluctantly. Each rock fought against us. Dust choked the air. By dusk, We'd widened the hole to the size of a watermelon, still too small for a person. We kept working. When the first stars appeared, we had an opening just big enough to squeeze through. Ryan crouched beside it, wiping his forehead. "You ready?" I hesitated, staring into that black throat in the ground. The air that came out was freezing, unnaturally still. My pulse thudded in my ears. "Let's do it," I said. The hole was tight. I had to slide on my stomach, arms extended, elbows scraping rock. Each breath had to be timed inhale only when I had space for my chest to expand. The stone pressed against my ribs, my heartbeat echoing through the limestone. Behind me, Ryan grunted as he followed, muttering about how much he'd missed the thrill. I didn't answer. The deeper I crawled, the colder it became. The air felt heavy, ancient. Then the tunnel dropped away. My body slid forward, down a slant of rock, and spilled into open space. My flashlight swung wildly, catching glittering mineral walls. Ryan's voice echoed down behind me. "You're good." "Yeah," I breathed. "You need to see this." When he slid down beside me, we both just stood there silent. The cavern stretched out around us, huge, breathtaking. The ceiling arched high above, glistening with countless stalactites that shimmered faintly in our lights. Water pooled across the floor, so clear it looked like glass. The chamber felt like a cathedral carved by time itself. But something was wrong. The air was too still, too cold. Sound died here. Our voices seemed swallowed the instant they left our lips. I tried to shake the unease as we set up the guideline, a thin rope tied to a rock near the entrance, our lifeline back. We'd done it 100 times before. Ryan checked the knots, smiled, and moved deeper into the dark. The formations grew stranger as we went. Some stalagmites were twisted like braided ropes, others hollow, punctured by small, perfect holes. Not the work of water, not erosion, something else. Ryan touched one and frowned. "I've never seen limestone like this," he said. Neither had I. Then I saw the bones. Scattered among the rocks were fragments, tiny vertebrate jawbones, stripped of teeth, brittle shards that crumbled when touched. At first, they looked like rodent remains, but some were larger, too large. Ryan crouched beside a long femur, turning it in his hand. Animals, maybe. God trapped when it collapsed. Maybe, I said, though my stomach tightened. The bone felt, chewed. We kept going, and that's when we found the wall. Etched into the stone were lines, hundreds of them. Figures drawn in faded pigment. At first, they looked like ordinary cave art stick people, with spears, animals with antlers and tails. But as the drawings continued, the tone changed. The figures were running, chased by something larger, a shape without clear form, a body made of twisting lines and impossible angles. The artist had tried to capture it, but failed, the image blurring into chaos. At the end of the sequence, the smaller figures were huddled inside a cave. The thing stood at the entrance, blocking their way out, and below it, a final carving, one lone figure trapped inside, surrounded by darkness. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Ryan laughed nervously. Guess our ancestors had some weird imagination. His voice didn't carry far. It was smothered by the still air. The passage ahead narrowed. Ryan went first, squeezing through arms pinned to his sides. I followed, dragging the rope behind me. The stone scraped my back. My heart hammered. Halfway through, I heard a sound, a low wheeze, faint but distinct, echoing from somewhere ahead. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. "Probably the rock shifting," he said, though his tone was forced. We emerged into another cavern, smaller but stranger. The ground here sloped downward, and at the far wall lay a heap of pale shapes. I thought they were rocks, until my light caught them bones again, but this time unmistakably human. Larger, heavier than ours, the skulls broad and primitive. Neanderthal maybe, except the rib cages were shattered, the bones splintered with deep grooves as if gnawed. Ryan knelt, tracing one of the marks with a trembling finger. "Something ate this," he whispered. The silence that followed pressed against us. Then again that sound, wheezing wet and close. We swung our lights toward the noise. The beam caught only rock and shadow. Then both our flashlights flickered. The darkness moved. A shape darted across the far edge of the cavern, too fast to see clearly, too pale to belong here. Ryan shouted, the sound cracking in the stillness. I saw the blur of motion, the glint of skin stretched tight over bone, then impact. Ryan was thrown sideways, his light spinning across the floor. I stumbled back, breath caught in my throat. The thing was gone as suddenly as it had appeared. Only the echo of movement and the faint, mocking wheeze remained. Ryan's sleeve was shredded blood seeping through. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," he gasped, flexing his hand. "Let's get the hell out of here." We turned back toward the passage. The rope was still there, taut, leading us home. But the sound followed, soft, rhythmic, impossibly close. We moved quickly, stooped low, crawling through the tight tunnel. Every scrape of stone sounded like footsteps behind us. Ryan's breathing grew ragged. "It's getting closer," he whispered. "Keep moving." The passage narrowed further until we had to crawl flat. I could see the faint grey light of the entrance ahead, the promise of the surface. Then Ryan's voice caught behind me. "Wait." My hand, it's numb. I can't move my fingers. "Just pull with your other arm," I said. He tried, grunting with effort, dragging himself forward. The sound behind us grew louder, no longer wheezing, but breathing, slow, wet breaths that filled the tunnel. "Move," I shouted. I clawed at the rock, forcing my body forward inch by inch. Ryan kicked, trying to push himself, but he was slowing down. The air thickened. Then he gasped, sharp, sudden, and everything went silent. Ryan, no answer. Only the faint shift of air, something massive moving in the dark. I kicked harder, scraping my knees raw, dragging myself toward the light. My lungs burned. A sound echoed behind me, a crunch, wet and deliberate. Then another. I burst from the tunnel and collapsed on the ground outside, gulping air. The night sky spun overhead. I turned back toward the hole. "Ryan," I shouted. "Come on." No response. I aimed my flashlight inside. The beam cut only a few feet before it hit dust and rock. Then came the sound. I'll never forget a noise so wrong it made my stomach turn. A tearing, grinding, wet crunch. I knew what it meant. I didn't need to see. The earth shuddered. Rocks shifted as if something enormous had moved beneath. Then, with a groan, the entire entrance collapsed. Dust billowed out, choking the air. Within seconds, the hole was gone, buried under tons of stone. I dropped to my knees, digging with my hands, screaming his name until my throat tore. The rocks wouldn't move. It was like the ground itself wanted to keep its secret. When I finally reached for my phone, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial. The operator's voice was calm, detached. 911. "What's your emergency?" "My friend, he's trapped underground." The cave collapsed. "Stay where you are," she said. "Help is on the way." By the time the rescue teams arrived, I was numb. They brought dogs' floodlights equipment. They found disturbed soil, fresh scrape marks, the remnants of our tools. But no cave, no opening, just solid rock. They questioned me for hours. How had I crawled out if it was sealed? How could I be sure there'd ever been an entrance? I told them everything. They didn't write it down. Days later, I returned alone. The depression was still there, but the limestone had fused into a smooth, unbroken wall. I pressed my ear against it. The stone was cold, and for a moment, I thought I heard it. A faint breath, slow and deep, rising from somewhere far beneath. I don't go near that part of the property anymore. I tried to sell the land, but the agency said they had no record of my purchase. The parcel doesn't exist in their files. Even the coordinates lead nowhere. Sometimes, late at night, I dream I'm back in the tunnel. The air is thick, the rock pressing in. I can't move my hands. Something breathes behind me. When I wake, my sheets smell faintly of earth and dust, and the sound still lingers, a low, patient wheeze, waiting for me to remember the way back down. They never found Ryan. They never even found the cave. The officials called it a case of stress-induced confusion. Said I must have gotten lost. Imagine the rest. But every night, when the wind moves through the trees, I hear it that same breath. Slow, wet, patient. Sometimes I wake to find dirt under my nails. Sometimes I dream of limestone walls closing in, and sometimes I swear I can still see the faintest blue light beneath the rocks at the edge of the creek. If you ever find a hole in the ground, one that breathes cold air and smells like rust, do not dig. Do not listen. And whatever you do, don't go inside. They never found Ryan. They never even found the cave. The officials called it a case of stress-induced confusion. Said I must have gotten lost. Imagine the rest. But every night when the wind moves through the trees, I hear it that same breath. Slow, wet, patient. Sometimes I wake to find dirt under my nails. Sometimes I dream of limestone walls closing in. And sometimes I swear I can still see the faintest blue light beneath the rocks at the edge of the creek. If you ever find a hole in the ground, one that breathes cold air and smells like rust, do not dig. Do not listen. And whatever you do, don't go inside.